Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Titusville City Council meeting of March 13th, 2018 at 6:30 p.m. We have a quorum. I'll declare the meeting in order. First thing on the agenda is Reverend Pastor Roger Hackenbach with us this evening? I don't see him. Okay, well, if you will join me in a moment of silent prayer. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item is approval of minutes.
I'd move to approve the minutes.
We have one card.
On the minutes?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Would you call the card, please?
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. I'm here to address the meeting minutes, and I do not wish them to be approved at this time. I have three items I'd like to mention to it. One is just a misspelled word. But I had some objection on the meeting minutes, the way it's been handled, because I just read the meeting minutes for a CRA meeting minute. And my goodness, that thing was incredibly detailed. Incredibly detailed. However, when I look at the regular council meeting minutes of January the 9th, in which we were talking about the falling off the cliff, $74.5 million liability the city had, about to go off bankrupt and so forth. And there is absolutely, it's over an hour of discussion, and there's absolutely no words in that about the millions of dollars of liability in that January 9th. I brought it to the attention, and I even sent an email to council members about that. And my goodness, what happened? I even also transcribed it, a good bit of the meeting, and asked council members to call. No one called. No, absolutely no one called. I sent it to senior manager's office too. I even called clerks up about it. And I said, well, I'll bring it up at the meeting. So in other words, we're talking about a city almost going bankrupt and so forth, falling off of a cliff, and yet it's not in the meeting minutes. About an hour discussion of it. So what I'm saying is that there's a difference in the CRA meeting minutes, from what appears to me, and the council meeting minutes. It's almost as if you're trying to hide something. I don't know how that could be. If you were looking at the meeting minutes, you would have to agree with that. And that's what, so I'm basing on that. On the old business item, OPED, regarding the OPED thing, I spoke for about 3 minutes, then I was allowed 3 more minutes. I requested additional time. I had spent hours and hours and hours, gave this to you, sent it to you before the meeting, and then what happened is I'm the only one in that chambers that for that item that was not allowed to speak as much as I had requested. And in other words, gave me 6 minutes. I had 6 minutes, and I said, I only had about 30 seconds left to read my conclusion. And I'll tell you, it was a slap in the face. All the hours I spent, plus I sent it to the council members. And I called them up. Nobody returns my call. And yet here I am, right, just to read even the conclusion, which would have taken probably less than even 20 seconds. No, you can't speak. What I'm saying is that this procedure that you have where you limit talk and you shut people down is not right. It's just not right. Just like just happened just a few minutes ago is that I wanted to disagree with Matt Behringer on that $80,000 at the CRA meeting. No, you're not going to disagree. So anyhow, I didn't get to my misspelled. Spell my name right, please, on that. And I had other items. More time requested?
We have no questions, sir.
More time requested? Okay, thank you.
May I point out that there are a lot of people tonight that wish to speak, I would imagine, from the faces I see out there.
And they are allowed 3 minutes. Everyone is allowed 3 minutes. On occasion, when we don't have a crowd of speakers, it is my prerogative to give somebody extra time or to ask counsel if they agree with it, and we vote on it. In this case, we did not want to do that, and I'm afraid I got bad news for you. Mr. Johnston is going to talk on every item this evening. So in order that we get out of here in some reasonable time and we don't take up all your time, tonight will be 3 minutes per person. Be as concise as you can, and don't go too far off track from the thing you have to speak on. And please try not to repeat something somebody else has said. So we'll continue at this point. Next item is...
You'll need a motion for the minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot we were even there.
So I would move to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting on January 23rd, 2018.
I have
And ask that we spell Mr. Johnston's name correct.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. The next item is special recognitions. I see nothing under that.
Yes, sir. We have one presentation. Council had requested at our last meeting to have our police chief speak briefly on school security. And as you know, legislation was approved recently by and signed by the governor. It's fresh off the press, so the chief's comments will be limited to Titusville.
Chief?
Thank you. Yes, this is all fluid, and I think the biggest thing that, questions we are receiving at the police department is, guns in school, teachers with guns in schools. To look at this and to hopefully ease our public's concerns with that, if you just measure teachers with guns in schools in a school that's, everything's fine, it's different than if you have someone who's mentally challenged and homicidal with a gun. Then all of a sudden, I think there'd be opinions might be different. I can tell you that Sheriff Ivey and all of the police chiefs in Brevard County have been meeting, and we are going to be ironing out all of the particulars, and because this is the way the bill has passed through, the way the law is, because this is now state law, that they'll either be a school resource officer or armed security or a marshal. So, and there's a lot of other moving parts that go into rolling this out. So, are there any specific questions?
Counsel, anything? Vice Chairman.
And Chief, I think just as you stated, it's fluid, and so do you have, from a law enforcement perspective, is there anything that as a council we could be mindful of during this process that would be supportive of whatever efforts are going to be taken as a community for the protection of our children? So
the security in all of Brevard County schools is actually under the responsibility of the Brevard County Sheriff's Department. Now, where a school is in the jurisdiction of a municipality, we're going to be the first responders in that area. But ultimately, this is all falling under Sheriff Ivey. And what that does is it keeps things consistent and unified, whether you're in MIMS or in MECO. And it's a very long county. There's, more than 550,000 residents, so it is a very challenging, ordeal to organize. But as the facts become more concrete, I'll be meeting with the city manager, and we will make sure that it'll be rolling out to this committee. And that way, if there is something that we could use from our council, we will certainly come forward and ask.
And just to add to that, I'm sorry, just to add to that, I did speak directly with our representative on the school board, Missy Belford, and told her exactly what you just said. It's not our primary duty, but that if we can help in any way, to let us know, and we certainly would. We stand ready to help in any way she feels it necessary. So it is a school board undertaking at this point.
One thing I do want to just briefly add, years ago we did a school safety, it was a grant that we got, and we went up to Kentucky, and it was a bunch of jurisdictions from around the country. And I had a representative from the state attorney's office, actually a juvenile judge, 2 police folks, crosswinds. It was a whole representation of what makes up Brevard County schools and the juvenile system. The model policy that was being taught up there was Brevard County schools. That was the model policy and this was the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, one of the best trainers in youth programs that was using Brevard County schools. So I will tell you, Brevard County is cutting edge in front. We are the leaders, and I guarantee this finished product is going to be rolled out. It's going to be seamless.
Okay. Anything else, Chief?
No, sir.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? I see none. The next item is boards and commissions, 6A.
Yes, sir. Accept the Municipal Code Enforcement Board semi-annual report as written.
Do I have a motion?
We have a card.
Oh, sorry.
Dan Johnston.
Mr. Johnston?
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. We're talking about the Municipal Code Enforcement Board and what is in the agenda packet. And it talks about all these fines that are levied on people for junk in the yard and so forth. And it gets up to $10,000 and so forth. And I feel like it's a little bit of a hypocrisy for all these fines getting for what seems like minor offenses that are getting up to over $4,000, even up to $10,000 for what appears to be like minor things. And I'm saying why would I say that? Because let me give you an example, is that if I have the city of Titusville comes and flood my property, I can't go to the municipal code board. I know that there's 2 large properties here in the city of Titusville that city has built dams that flood private property, and they were designed that way. I've sent this information to you repeatedly. And what did the city do? But we have a municipal code enforcement. It seems just like a hypocrisy that the city would put these fines on people, yet they won't enforce their own laws, or enforce laws like, hey, you're not supposed to flood people's property that they don't give you permission to. And that's what's in. And what I've done is I've sent this to council members repeatedly, sent drawings and so forth. Council members don't return my call. It seems like you have some kind of a silence, some kind of code of silence that you don't respond to these issues. It's serious. It's a serious issue. So when we're talking about what this municipal code is doing, it just seems like absolutely ridiculous to compare to what the city of Titusville is doing. And also, you're going to find out, I'm going to show you soon, that we've got fraudulent flood zones throughout the city of Titusville that the city won't do anything about. I used the word fraudulent. And that means they're there to deceive people, and people have lost money. I think you know the meaning of fraudulent, and so I'll be going into that soon. So we have problems, and I think what you're doing here in this with municipal code is absolutely contrary to what you're doing yourself. Do unto others as you would have done unto you, and you're not doing it. Thank you.
Just to clarify on the fines issue, they are fines that are put against the property after they go through the process of coming before the Municipal Code Board on a daily basis. If they get it done in one day, they pay the one day. If they don't do anything for a year, it can go up to that amount. It's the only way we can enforce it. We can't go in and take things out of their home or repaint their home in some cases where it's outrageous or whatever. All the municipal board can do is put them on a daily fine. So the choice of the fine per day is the code board's choice, depending on how big an issue it is or if it isn't. But then from there on, it goes day to day, and it's the person's choice to get it done or not to get it done. Next item, B, please, sir.
We'll need a motion.
Oh,
Move to accept the Municipal Code Enforcement Board semi-annual report.
do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Item B, sir.
Item B is accept the Board of Adjustment and Appeals semi-annual report as written.
All right. Do you have any cards on that?
No, sir.
No. Accept the motion, please.
I'd move to accept the Board of Adjustment and Appeals semi-annual report as written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Item 3, Titusville Environmental Commission. Item C. We have one card on that.
Yes, sir.
Call the
It's
card,
Dan
please.
Johnston.
TEC member Alex Chamberlain is requesting a leave of absence for 6 months period between May and October 2018, as he routinely lives out of state during this time. Staff's request is that council approve the request of leave of absence for Titusville Environmental Commission member Alex Chamberlain for a 6-month period between May and October of 2018.
Just to comment on it, Mr. Chamberlain is a very valued member of that board. He has done this, taking a break during those months for many, many years, and the board appreciates the time he gives when he's here. So they have gone along with it. Do I have a motion on this?
We have a card.
So,
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. Oh, my goodness. I just recall that while Johnson said I'm speaking at every agenda item. Well, I didn't speak at the last one, so that was a little bit of an exaggeration. But I am speaking at this one in support of Mr. Chamberlain. He's a fine person. I support this request, and he is still very active. And I wanted to mention this, one of the special things that he did do for our city and our community and our county is that we have a chain of lakes. And I know that Truman Scarborough is given much credit for the chain of lakes. They even got a name of a street up there dedicated them. But I want you to understand is that it was Alex Chamberlain that brought the idea to Truman. And that I don't know if he gets any credit for it, but not only did he brought the idea, he pushed it. So Mr. Chamberlain is a very valuable citizen we have here. He's conscientious, and he's one of the finest citizens we have in the city, and I request that you also approve his request. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other cards?
No, sir.
Okay. I accept the motion on this item.
Move to approve the request for a leave of absence by Alex Chamberlain for 6 months.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Next item is D.
Accept the North Brevard Hospital District Board semi-annual report as presented. We have Mr. Robert Jordan will provide the presentation to the council.
Good evening. Yes, we need you to say your name and address. So,
Robert, can you move your papers off the microphone and then press the little button there? There you go.
We're good now? Okay, thank you. Robert Jordan, 1750 Lakeside Drive, Titusville, Florida. Good evening, Honorable Mayor Johnson and members of the City Council. I'm Robert Jordan, Vice Chair of the Parish Medical Center Board of Directors. It is my honor to present Parish Medical Center's semi-annual report. I would like to take this opportunity tonight to highlight Parish Medical Center's most recent achievement. In February, a World Summit held in London, England, on patient safety, science, and technology recognized Parish Medical Center as the world's first hospital to commit to a series of life-saving patient safety goals. The Patient Safety Movement Foundation's 6th Annual World Patient Safety, Science, and Technology Summit took place February 23rd through 25th in central London with healthcare practitioners and industry leaders from at least 25 countries. Parish Medical Center was recognized as the world's first hospital to earn the Patient Safety Movement Foundation's 5-star hospital ranking, which acknowledges PMC for implementing all of the Foundation's actionable patient safety solutions. The Patient Safety Movement seeks by 2020 to eliminate preventable hospital errors. Preventable errors. Why did Parish commit to 100% of the patient safety solutions? Because it is the right thing to do. And, like most things worth doing, it isn't easy and it takes hard work. PMC has in recent years been named Florida's safest hospital by Consumer Reports and by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services as Florida's #1 hospital for patient safety, quality of care, and patient experience, and also has earned multiple other care and safety honors. Parish Medical Center isn't a multi-hospital system with unlimited resources at our disposal. So how do we do it? How is Parish achieving patient safety results when others are not? The answer is commitment. The commitment the Parish Medical Center Board and every single parish care partner makes to patient safety comes from the heart and from a sincere love and respect for our community and our fellow men, women, and children. Here are just 3 examples of actionable patient safety commitments Parish has made. First, preventing sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. Parish was the first in Brevard and is one of few hospitals in the U.S. to adopt a proven infant safety model from Finland, the baby box. The baby box is an instant safe sleeping space for the newborn. Parish has been providing baby boxes at no cost for 2 years now, and there has been no co-bedding deaths in our population, none. Second, around 2006, Parish adopted the ventilator safety bundle. Since the adoption and a relentless commitment to ventilator safety, no person hospitalized at Parish has acquired any ventilator-associated pneumonia in over 12 years. Finally, in keeping with Parish Medical Center's mission and Safe Care Pledge, the Board of Directors and the leadership of Parish have made mental health, suicide prevention, and the opioid epidemic patient safety priorities. We look forward to giving the outcomes of these efforts in the future reports. Why do we do this? Because safety matters. It is through Parish's safe practices that we achieve and sustain an impeccable patient safety record. It is through Parish's safe practices that we safeguard the lives of those we have the honor to serve. And this brings me to the concluding remarks of my report. The patients and families we have the honor to serve honor us with their feedback about their health care experiences. Through this feedback, we are able to continuously improve upon the healing experiences we are committed to provide. Here are a few select comments we share with permission. Mr. Spatafor said of his ER experience, "I have been in many hospitals and have been cared for by many nurses and doctors. But last night in your emergency room, I was cared for by the most compassionate and caring doctor and nurse that I've ever met. Dr. Cuccolini and Nurse Stella, thank you. New mom Cindy said, August 29th, the day Giuliani was born, will always be a day engraved in my heart. I'm so deeply thankful for each one of you. Although I don't remember each name or title, your kind words, your soft touch, your confident teachings and warm smile made my experience so beautiful and memorable. Ely wrote, how do you say thank you to a hospital for saving my son's life? Dr. Connolly was the physician who diagnosed my son's very serious heart condition. Thank you again. I had a wonderful holiday season because of the superb medical care you gave my son. I won't read them all, but we are honored to serve the health and wellness needs of our community with unsurpassed excellence and serving as the world's first five-star hospital for patient safety. This concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. We have any questions for Mr. Jordan? Member Diesel?
Yes, sir. I want to say that I don't know how many people in this room may have written a letter like that, but I know I did. I won't go into great detail, but it was a time when my mom was hours away from passing, and at the same time my mother-in-law was visiting her, had a code blue. And I want to tell you that that was a very stressful time in our family's lives, and I cannot tell you the people that came out of their offices and came from all over the place to comfort us. That's just one of the stories that Parrish has on a daily basis. That being said, I know of no hospital that is more intertwined in the community than Parrish. All the wonderful things you said, the stories we've all written about, but Christmas time, the Christmas events, the breakfast with Santa, it goes on and on. So, yeah, the Playhouse tickets. I mean, we can all sit up here for an hour and name things, but I just want to say thank you to Parrish and Mr. Mkhitaryan in particular. It's meant a lot to my family, and I know it's meant a lot to Titusville.
Thank you, sir.
And I'm sure that goes for everyone up here, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, do we have a card on this item?
Yes, sir. It's Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsett Avenue. I filled out a card because I didn't know whether I would speak or not. I would expect I wouldn't have filled out a card. So I'm encouraging anyone in this audience here is that if you think that that you possibly might speak on something, is to fill out a card. In this case, I would like to add something, is that Parrish Hospital, they saved my father-in-law, saved his life, and they saved my mother. And they did it in a very special way that I don't know any other hospital would do. My father-in-law was out of his mind. He had pigs in a hospital that were rooting up the floor. He had somebody in the ceiling that was pulling out these ceiling tiles, and he had a gun. And when his daughter came to visit him, he was taking the net off of her, removing the net from her. He was completely out of her mind. And so what the hospital did, they allowed me to stay with him overnight while he was having all these crazy hallucinations after his serious operation on his lungs. Otherwise, he was going to jerk everything out of his body. He had all these tubes in him. So that was one. And then the other saving was my mother. She was out of her mind. She had pneumonia. She's about to die. And she was crazy in her head. And they allowed me to stay overnight. And I stayed several nights with her in her room. And they provided a bed for me to sleep in there next to her. So there's two savings. But I just want to say is that I didn't intend to comment, and I want to thank the hospital and thank you, Robert, for your presentation. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Next item is Historic Preservation Board.
I think we need a motion.
No, we didn't. I'm sorry.
We did. Hi.
I'll accept motion on.
Move to accept the North Brevard Hospital District Board's semi-annual report.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes. Yes. Any opposed, like sign. Passes unanimously. Next item is Historic Preservation Board. E.
Currently, there's one vacancy for an alternate member with a term to expire on 31 October 2019. Mr. Jeffrey Upton has expressed his willingness and desire to serve on this board as an alternate member. There are currently no other applications on file for your consideration.
Clerk, do we have a card on this item?
No, sir.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
He is a Realtor. He qualifies. He's one of those professions that is wanted for the Historic Preservation Board, and I would move to
Reappoint? Or
Reappoint
appoint?
him.
Or appoint? Is he on there already?
I think he's on it.
Well, in either case, appoint. You're appointing. So.
Appoint him, yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on? That's the motion. I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Any further discussion on the item? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Next item, or no, there is none. The Municipal Code Board.
Currently, there's one vacancy for an alternate member with a term to expire on 31 October 2020. There's currently one application on file for consideration. Ms. Nina Upton has expressed her willingness and desire to serve on this commission as an alternate board member. There are currently no other applications on file for your consideration.
Okay. Is there a card on this item?
No, sir.
Okay. What's your pleasure?
I move to appoint Nina Upton to the Municipal Code Enforcement Board. It looks like she's related to Mr. Upton, so they're both willing to serve.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign, passes unanimously. Municipal Code Board, right, historic. We're down to petitions and requests. Whoever gets to the mic first wins.
I may have been out of my mind earlier, sorry. My name is Jim Bolton, 507 LM Davy Lane. Lived in Titusville since 1985. I'm here to ask the City Council to reconsider the vote on demolishing 10A Max Brewer Parkway, which we call the Titusville Sailing Club House. It's got a historical value to it, a number of things there. And what we've done is we've been a sailing
Sir,
club.
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. I let you speak at the last.
Right, okay, not a problem then.
No, I know. It is part of our.
This is a different meeting, so technically
okay,
it is
you
a
can?
different
All right.
meeting.
Usually,
since you allowed him in the first.
The same person can't talk on petitions and requests, but I interpreted it wrong. You
Well-
may go ahead if you wish.
Respecting your time, I'll keep it quick. You've heard it once. The Titusville
That's
Sailing Club, the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, we use the facility. We believe that there is a path forward to be able to repair that building. We would really like you to consider allowing us to have an opportunity to pull together a plan that would be viable, feasible, and economical. But we've had such little time to be able to do that. We don't have that exact plan together. We know that we've got some funding that would be going toward a roof, all these type things. But we really would like to be able to give it a repair, turn it into where it's more of a community center, make it look like the architecture that Sandpoint is. And we just are really asking for the opportunity to get our plan together and hopefully be able to bring something that would be valuable to the community. I thank you very much, and I also appreciate that you got a real nice sailing picture on the new banners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
If there are any questions, we do have people here that would answer
Okay.
anything.
All right, sir. Are there other cards on this item, clerk?
It's petitions and requests,
Oh,
sir.
I'm getting very confused with all that's going on tonight, but, yes, go ahead.
And for, please note, I'm one of 5 So please keep that in mind. And I think that there's many of you here that are just here because you're voicing something that you feel very passionately about. And I would give maybe a path forward or an opportunity of just scope of what I think that we're trying to do as a group. And I relate it to the splash pad that was just built. And I think that there was some similarities to the idea that there were community members who felt that it would be good for our community. And the way that happened to make it actually come to be done, I think, in my opinion, is probably most likely the way for moving forward as a group if there was enough wherewithal to be able to pull it off. And the short version is there was a civic club. They got together. They said, let's build it. And that was Rotary and Kiwanis. And those organizations came together. They built it. And the city helped leverage that in addition. What I hear is that this is short notice or short understanding of kind of, this is all happening very quickly. What just happened? And I think for giving scope of what is being asked for, in my opinion, probably in shooting for a replication of what those organizations did to pull it off to make it happen, would probably be a good starting point from which to move forward for. Not to take away from your engagement coming here and saying city build one or city fix it or so on and so on, but the reality of how I could see something like this happening would probably be more likely what was replicated from the steps taken towards the creation of the splash pad, of which I would be happy as a one-on-one to meet with folks to discuss how that happened for understanding, because probably right now at this point in time is not that moment, but I would just toss that out there, because if there's community members who care about something, it's good to have things in the community that people care about, but the reality of how do you get there becomes a challenge, right? And so I would be happy to put that out there.
Yes, sir. If I could, just so everybody understands, the proposal to demo the property is not in this budget year. So we do have time. It's not as, we're going to knock it down next week. However, the air quality within the building is contaminated, so that's why we asked them to vacate.
Would you give us a brief synopsis of what that building needs? I did go down and look at it myself. Some of the gentlemen over here, I spoke to them. It's not as simple as a roof, but I'll let the city engineer speak to that.
Yeah, it does need a roof. It does need some other electrical mechanical upgrades. The crux of the issue is it's flood prone. It's in the flood zone, so its finished floor can't allow a building permit to be pulled against it without raising it out of the flood zone, which also prevents us from having repetitive flood claims. If you recall, Irma flooded the building, flooded all of Sandpoint Park. All of our riverfront properties are damaged, including this building. So that's the primary concern, is that building needing to be raised up out of the plain. As we do major renovation to a public building, ADA didn't exist at the time that building was built. It does now. It's a two-story publicly accessible building, which adds elevator needs or accessibility needs to the second floor. Going through with our building department, obviously everything's aged. Electrical, mechanicals, all need to be upgraded.
What would an elevator approximately cost for a two-story?
I think when we put the one for the chamber in, I think we spent $35,000, $40,000 just for a single-use pasture type.
Yeah, it was closer to 90.
Was it? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, so that alone is a large investment for a publicly accessible second story of a building. So
the building would have to be, actually I think it'd have to be raised. Knocked down would be cheaper than trying to raise it 3 feet. I don't think the whole building is strong enough to take that but if you could come up with the money to do all of that, I think that would be great, certainly. But We have a problem. The building is full of different types of mold. I don't know them all. I don't know which ones are dangerous, but I did see a report. And quite a few other problems besides the roof. The final problem is, has been said, it was flooded during Irma. Did some, I'm sure, some soaking of the woods there and so forth, and that will lead to more, or has led to more contamination, and something would certainly have to be done about that. So you're not just taking over a building that needs a roof and saying that's going to be it. There's a lot more to it. Sir, you already spoke, so I can't do that. But if there's somebody that would like to address that at this time, be my guest.
My name's Tom Perez. I live on 3025 South Washington Avenue, and I'm here on the same topic. We have thought about all the issues that were just presented because we did receive a copy of a report through Kim Lux, the individual represented here, I guess several meetings ago from the Coast Guard Auxiliary. So we also have with us a contractor who's looked at the building, and we also can address the issue of the mold. So if you care to ask any of those questions, we can address them. I'm here to sort of sum it up if you don't have any other questions relative to that.
My only question is, are there the things that we mentioned already, you're aware of those things?
Yes, we are. We are.
Okay. And you're doing some sort of check on what it costs to do that?
Yes, we have. And some of them are not as relevant as they've been made out to be. The mold is one example. Okay, what's inside of the building is very, very low. It's lower than the outside environment. So, you know, I mean, and we're prepared to do the mitigation for that. So that's not one of the biggies. But we have, I believe, the ability to address everything that's on that report, including the flooding. Okay.
Would you intend to raise the building? I mean,
well, we
to
have
lift the building.
We have several
raise
options, okay? I don't have that expertise, but we do have a contractor here, like I said, that can speak to that, if you want to hear what he has to say.
I think that's up to you to hear him. You're talking to him as to prices and so forth, rather than spend a lot of time this evening on that kind of detail.
Okay.
You guys talk to him and come back and let us know what you find.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, the occupants of the building, who you've heard from, have tried to work out an initial plan that can be a starting point for saving, repairing, and reconstructing the building to make it literally brand new, like my house. We would like to create a vision for the use of this facility. Everyone knows an organization or group that could use a meeting space, such as what this facility would provide. This would be a community facility with proximity to the water and beautiful surroundings. It would provide such a meeting place for the residents of Titusville. The organizations that have occupied the building are assets that are available to the residents of Titusville. They have skills.
Sir, your time is up, and it's 3 minutes tonight.
Well,
unless somebody on council would like to ask a question of you.
I'm not sure I want to ask a question of Tom.
You do.
Yes, I do. Tom, can you sum it up in 2 seconds?
No.
2 seconds? No, but a lot of my time was taken up with discussion from the council as well.
Okay, can you be as brief as possible?
Oh, of course. I only have a couple of sentences left, not 2 seconds worth of.
That would be great.
Okay. So all these organizations do have skills that are of benefit to the city, okay, young people in particular. Salem Club is willing to fund the initial phase of this project, the installation of a new roof on the main second floor of the building, along with soffits and fascia, okay, as well as, for the moment, patching up the other roofs so that the building doesn't continue to deteriorate. So We have a number of supporters here. Would you please stand? Okay. That was on very short notice. We didn't know we were going to be here till yesterday. Okay. So we ask you to reconsider your vote and to re-vote to save this building. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank all of you. You wish to speak?
May I?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
I have to tell council, I did meet with Jim and Laura Lee Thompson last week. They asked me to come down and look at the building, and Ms. Thompson believes that they can find grants that will allow them to repair this building. That being said, it's a huge project. Fortunately, Ms. Thompson also has an architect in the family that I think she can probably talk into helping out, along with a couple of engineers. The building's not going to be demolished until this fall, if it is demolished. So to me, it didn't make any sense not to allow them at least some time to see what they could do.
I don't think anybody is opposing them looking to see what they can do. It's what they would expect us to do after that we have to consider.
Well, like I told them, the city does not have a lot of money, and so this is something that, if it's going to be a project, it's going to have to be their project. And I believe Jim and Tom accepted that challenge, and I believe Ms. Thompson was in there with them and said we should know within the next month or two whether we can find the funds to do it. So at this point, I would ask that we consider, do a motion. I would do a motion to reconsider our vote 2 weeks ago. And
Ma'am, just for clarification, you didn't really vote. This was a city manager item as a surplus property.
okay.
So we were just advising council what we were going to do with the property. So again, nothing's going to happen with this property.
So
I mean, October of next year is the earliest that anything could be addressed, and we may not even have money in the budget to do the demolition.
Okay, so basically, we don't need a vote, and they have the opportunity to go forward and
Absolutely,
see what
I think
they
it's a
can do.
worthy project as well.
Okay.
Member Dees, are you through?
Yeah, real quick. Are you through?
Are you through? Yes, I guess you're through.
Okay. I think all along as we've discussed this or heard about this, and I didn't think we had voted either, so I was trying to go back in my mind on that one. But I don't think anybody looking at this group and looking at you guys who came last time was feeling really good about, gosh, let's just, take it out. It was one of those things that, through the hurricane and the mold and all that stuff, we've all seen buildings that just had outlived their usefulness. But I think, and I liked Vice Mayor Behringer's point, this is one of those things kind of like the splash pad where you guys have a focus. You guys have a goal. And I don't think for a minute that this group can't get this done. Now, I'm not an engineer, and I don't know about mold and all that. I just know that once there is a problem, and I think you guys are just the guys to get this done. And I would speculate that we're all pulling for you. But as Mayor said, also, the bottom line comes down that we don't have the money at this time to put into that. But we didn't have a whole lot of money put in splash pad either. And the general public and the Rotary and Kiwanis and other groups got together and got this done. I'm betting you can do the same. I really am.
Okay, I see no other lights, but I think we have a consensus for hoping that you guys can put it together, and you've got the time to do it, so we'll do it there. This is still petitions and requests, so anybody else like to come up?
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsett Avenue. I might comment on that particular building is that as far as raising the floor and finished floor, they don't have to do that, providing all they have to do is show is that the building has not been destroyed by more than 50, I think it's 51%, 51%, something like that. So then you won't have to raise the finished floor. And by the way, is that you'll find is that wind events for the my time started. Wind events will put the finished floor elevation of this building also underwater. So, okay, here's what I'm here. You got this piece of paper here. It's been presented to council before on August 23rd, 2016. Now, what this is about is something that has to do with also Mr. Stauffer, who's here, and that is that I have a complaint against him for misconduct. I mean, him and his staff and Woody Rice, they withheld information from me and from FEMA and from the public about information that disagreed with the flood zone, which FEMA contacted the city about, and I contacted asking for information. So this is one of the many sources that disagrees with the flood zone. Now, what this sheet of paper is not signed by me. I'm a registered engineer, but the thing is, it's not signed because all this is public information, all these numbers here. I went over with Sarah Stoker with that just recently. So what especially I want you to pay attention to is that what I'm looking at is that I'm now switching to, I want to mention is that we have 6,000 acres of watershed that have flood zones that are incorrect in the city. I'm speaking to you as a professional engineer, and if you'll go to this column number 1, and it says calculated peak elevation from the freshwater management study is done in 1985. Go down to the where I have it circled at 21.9 elevation. That is the elevation of the calculated after a dam was built. But assuming the dam was built. But in the far column, you have an elevation of 21.0. That was supposed to be the highest finished floor elevation that we have in that watershed. And then what happened is that if you go with the other circled area, is that you'll find that the firm map says the flood zone elevation is 22. And the thing is that what has happened is that it's arbitrary, capricious, and fraudulent flood zone elevations because it's capricious because it's illogical to compute a flood zone elevation assuming that the dam is already there. I said it's capricious. It's arbitrary because they added elevations to that elevation.
Mr. Johnson.
And it's fraudulent. May I finish?
You have one sentence to finish in.
No, I'm asking for extra time to finish it. You're not even interested. I'm just talking about why it's fraudulent. Perhaps you're not interested because you don't return my call.
Sir, we've been dealing with this for 3 to 4 years that I know
Mr.
of.
Diesel
We have volumes of books back there, sir, on the subject, so we're real familiar with it.
Okay.
And had studies done by other
That's
professionals.
What I get to. Okay.
All right, sir, your time is up. Please seat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else who wishes to speak on the petitions and requests? I hear none. Oh, sir, yes?
Not on this subject.
I didn't say it had to be on this subject. He didn't talk on that subject.
Tom First from 4875 Winchester Drive. And I assume you all have the handouts that I gave the clerk.
Oh, which one? Oh, there they are.
And my question is, did you get these? I sent one in December, and I sent one on March 5th. And I have not received any response from anybody.
Were you here during the meetings where this was discussed, sir?
Pardon?
Were you here during the meetings?
Yes.
Where this was discussed? So you did?
Yes.
You did have some information as the council's position on it, right?
Yes. On the December 12th meeting, December 12th, 2017, when you all voted on the change in the code.
Yes, sir.
And at that time, it was determined by Ms. Basaka that if this particular shipping container was not finalized, or they didn't put in for a final by February 1st, it would expire and it would become a code enforcement problem. It did, in fact, expire February 1st. Code enforcement notified the parties on February 23rd. They went to permitting on the 27th and got a 6-month extension. I want to know why.
If you'll hold on 1 second, sir. Would you stop his light, please? Ms. Busaka, would you address this, please?
The building official determined that under the provisions of the building code that the permit could be extended. And that is his decision to make. It is not mine to make. What the code that was adopted by the council in December says is that existing non-conforming shipping containers on residentially zoned or residentially used property for which a permit was issued as of the effective date of this regulation, December 12th, 2017, and remains valid, or for which a final inspection has been completed as of the effective date of this regulation, shall be permitted to continue for 18 months from the date of this regulation. The building official has determined that the permit can remain valid. A final inspection, to my knowledge, has not been completed, but I have not talked about this with the building official today. So if there was an inspection today, I'm not aware of it.
Does that answer your question, sir?
No. My point is, it had expired 26 days later. They give it an extension after it had been cited again by code enforcement. So what's going on here?
Best that I can suggest is that Mr. Fernstrom meet with the building official. I'm sorry, Mr. Fernstrom. It's not my code. I can't interpret the building code. Only the building official can.
Would you like to do that, sir?
I can do that, but I'll tell you, I won't get anywhere with it. Okay?
You won't know till you try, sir.
We're backed into a corner in a place we didn't want to go. So you all know what you've got the stuff, you can look at it, and I know that I can speak with the building official, and he's probably going to tell me the same thing. It's wrong, it shouldn't have been done, and you all know it.
And if I could just say one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
What the code goes on to say is that if an existing non-conforming shipping container, which has a valid current permit as of the effective date of the regulation, has been brought into architectural compatibility within 6 months, that structure may remain until there's a change of, it may remain. If that structure that Mr. Fernstrom is referring to is not brought into compliance architecturally 6 months from this code, then it must be removed as of 18 months after the code was adopted. So there is still, if Mr. Fernstrom's dates, which I don't have in my head, there is 6 months from that date in which the owner has the right to come into architectural compatibility. Now, it does say that the period may be extended for an additional 60 days when the administrator determines that such extent is warranted due to hardship. And I believe that the discussion was, should that be a hurricane? Should there be some kind of major event? So I just wanted to be clear what the code says about that. But I would be happy to meet with Mr. Fernstrom and the building official because that decision is his, not mine.
Okay, well, I know you all can overrule the building official if you choose to. And we know, I know, and you know after you read that you don't normally extend a permit 26 days after it's expired. That's my point.
I don't know what normally means, sir. We do quite a few things.
So, and Mr. Broom, I think you know as well.
Actually, appeals of the building official and staff would go to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals, not to council.
Well, okay. Well, we're going to have to go where we got to go. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor, I see your light.
And for city manager, just from a follow-up, just as individual, because there are more moving pieces of which to include where it goes and direction. So I think just for myself, if I was to get a follow-up just in our meeting, that would be helpful, just so I can have a better understanding, because there was just about 4 different directions that just went, I think, so to be fair. All right.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Come right up. Your name and address, sir, please.
This is Garrison Riker Brown, and I'm homeless.
Come back a little bit so that you don't. No, you don't have to that. Just stand straight and we can hear you. You're talking right into the mic and it's.
Yes, sir. All right, the timer's set.
Timer's on.
Point 1, point 2. Okay, I've made 2 points in 1 second. Okay, it can be done. I don't even need 2 seconds to make 1 point because I'm so fast. Okay? We're the kids. What happened is the millennials turned 18 this year. And people born in 93 turned 25 this year. We are adults. And you can unintentionally filibuster things. Whether or not you want to, it can happen. And you're just wasting time.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the petitions and requests? I see none, so we will go on to the consent.
Yes, sir. Before we call the cards and ask council, staff would like on consent agenda item L, there's a Scrivener's error on the report itself. On the exhibit, the acreage is listed in the report. It says 0.60 acres. It is actually 0.06 acres. So as that's now part of the record, we don't need to pull that item should council choose to move forward with it.
Okay. All right. We'll do the consent agenda then. Clerk, have any cards been submitted on any consent agenda items?
Yes, sir. We have cards on A.
Wait 1 second, Clerk, please. I got a feeling I'm going to have to do some writing here. Yes, A.
F. G. J.
Wait
L.
1 second, please.
Sorry.
A.
Where did you get to? I'm sorry.
A, F, G.
And then J.
J.
L.
L.
And M.
M or N?
M.
M. Okay. Council, are there any items that you wish to be pulled? I hear and see no lights. Council, do you have any questions of, I'm sorry, to the wrong thing. We will pull item A, F, G, J, L, and M from the consent, and they will be dealt with separately immediately following the consent agenda. Mr. City Manager, would you read the consent agenda item?
Yes, sir. Consent agenda item 8B, acknowledge receipt of FY 2017 CRA annual report and financial report as adopted by the CRA. Consent agenda item 8C, approve the easement agreement between Ruth L. Alford and RCG Titusville LLC and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement. Consent agenda item 8D, approve the police department K-9 reserve fund transfer request. Consent agenda item 8E, approve the award of contract bid 18B025 to U.S. IC Locating Services LLC of Indianapolis, Indiana, to perform utility locating services for 1 year with 4 one-year annual renewal options, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract at an annual amount of $83,875. Consent agenda item 8H, approve advisability for staff to evaluate the process of licensing of taxi cabs to improve consistency with the business tax receipt processes. Consent agenda item 8I, approve the FY18 Student Advisory Council scholarship expenditures not to exceed $2,250 and direct staff to forward pending disbursement forms to the city manager and finance director for preparation of 3 individual scholarship checks as presented by the scholarship award policy. 3 scholarships will be awarded at the regular city council meeting on 24 April 2018 at the 6:30 meeting. Consent agenda item 8K, approve the mayor's signing of the Arbor Day proclamation for 2018. Consent agenda item 8N, approve the request, approve and appropriate $12,000 in state forfeiture funds to contract community relations consultant along with the attached BA form.
Okay, we need a motion to approve agenda items, and clerk, check me on these, please. Make sure I didn't leave any out or put any in. We'll pull items B, C, D, E, H, I, J, no, H, I, K, and M. Is that correct, clerk? Correct. From the vote. Oh, those ones that are in there? Okay.
It's actually 8M.
M, I said. All right. We'll vote on those items, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd move to approve consent agenda items as you laid them out.
That's a good way to express it.
Why don't I read those again for you? It's consent agenda item 8B, C, D, E, H, I, and N. K and N.
I have a motion and a second. I'm going to ask for a roll call vote on this, if there isn't any other discussion. Clerk?
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Now we will go to the items that have been pulled. Item B.
Start with A, sir.
I'm looking at the wrong list again. Yes, item A. Ordinance number 16, 2018, related to assembly uses.
No, sir, this is consent agenda item 8A.
I'm sorry. I'll get there in a second. I got no papers flying around. Okay. I thought I did that one. 8A, I'm sorry. Consent agenda item 8A. Rehabilitation of 4 check valves at the Morning Dove Water Treatment Center. Any discussion on that?
We have a card, sir.
Please call the card, clerk.
Stan Johnston?
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsett Avenue. I'm talking about, I'm against this. And why I'm against this, this was prepared by Water Resources under the directorship of Sean Stauffer. Sean Stauffer has been completely dishonest with me and has brought a lot of problems with the city of Titusville, costing citizens a lot of money. Him and a few members of his staff and Mr. Rice. So I do not trust him. He's been deceitful to me. I believe he...
Mr. Johnston.
Yes, sir.
These are your personal opinions, and I don't
okay, don't take my time.
To that.
Stop the time. Okay.
You already did.
Okay.
These are your personal opinions, sir. I really do not appreciate your talking about people's character when you're talking about a particular subject, and that's just personal attack in my estimation.
Okay. All right, you can call this personal attack, but however, what we're doing is that I don't trust him, and I don't think we should...
It's sufficient to say what
Stop
you don't...
Stop the clock, please.
It's sufficient to say what you don't think is correct, sir. You don't have to go into individual personalities.
Okay, I will continue because I think this is important. The way I look at it, this is important to this matter, is that we have someone who has been incredibly, and I have a complaint. You may already know that I have a complaint to HR
You can
about this.
complain about anything you'd like. I'm asking you.
Please
not-
stop the clock.
I'm asking you not to speak about individual personalities and your opinions of them.
Okay. This was prepared by Water Resources, Mr. Johnson.
I
Mr.
understand.
Johnson, we have incredible misinformation, misleading information to the council from Mr. Stauffer on numerous subjects.
Calm
And
down,
I
sir.
think that you should
Calm
consider
down,
this.
sir.
Pardon?
Calm down.
Yes.
That's fine, sir. You can make those statements. I'm asking you, out of decency, to stop making personal attacks on people. You can say they were wrong. You can say you don't agree with them. You don't have to say anything about someone's character.
Well, as far as decency goes, I think you should stop the clock. As far as decency goes, because I'm responding to him and not what I'm doing. I think you should stop the clock, and you're not doing it.
Stop
I
the
think I
clock.
should give the
Clerk,
time.
Clerk, stop the clock, please.
Okay, I'm responding to what he said. So I think the clock should be stopped. So here's what it is. As far as decency goes, you see, I've been used as a doormat here. And so have residents of Parkland Estates and some other places is where because of him, is that the flood zone wasn't, and it cost the city $80,000 because of him, as far as I can see. That's what happened. They didn't revise the flood zone, and it cost city $80,000, our citizens, because he didn't do what he's supposed to do. And he can go ahead and speak up against me too. I'd like him to love for him to seal and say information that I provided that is incorrect. He won't do it because he has. Okay, now using my time, I was responding
That's
to him.
because it's time for you to get back to the subject.
Can I say point of order? Can we stick to the agenda of what we're trying to vote on?
Okay, stop the clock.
Absolutely.
Okay, y'all haven't stopped the clock because what I'm saying is that this should not be approved because you've got unreliable source of information. That's Mr. Stauffer.
Now you're talking about the subject, and I'm going to start the clock again.
Okay, all right, that's good.
Start
You
the clock.
She already been running it. I'm sorry. Okay, so this information that I'm saying is as far as I can see, is unreliable. Anything that comes from Water Resources under his directorship is unreliable. It's absolutely, as far as I'm concerned, I just can't trust it. And for that reason, I'm against it. I'm very much against anything that Mr. Stauffer presents to this council because he's already submitted misleading information to council repeatedly and to me, the public, and to FEMA. Didn't respond. So he, as far as I'm concerned, shouldn't even be working for the city of Titusville. He's been very, I just think it's just terrible things what he did. He's cost the city a lot of money, and you need to recognize it. I've sent y'all emails about this stuff. You don't listen to me? I send emails to y'all, and you don't respond. This council is unresponsive, and I wonder if you got a conflict of interest, because it doesn't seem like you're doing what you're supposed to do. I'm not talking about quid pro quo. I'm talking about conflict of interest. You need to be, you're elected by the public. You should not be working for the government. You should not be puppets. You should be making decisions here that are for the public, not for the city government. Thank you.
Clerk, are there any other cards on this?
Not on this item.
Sir, I'll introduce
Vice
the item.
Mayor,
I'll introduce the item. Consent agenda item 8A. Approve the budget amendment.
Wait, sir, I think you wanted to speak.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, my apologies. Thank you, sir. Number one, Mr. Stauffer is unbelievably credible, deserving of none of the things that were just said. We just went something. We just went something. We went through something very difficult with our police department, and one of the regrets that I had was I didn't say enough supportive, I think, for the job that they do. And I'm not going to have that happen again and sit here. And what I am hearing and what's in front of me is misrepresentation to FEMA, which is illegal. I'm a betting man that you can't do that. I have something in front of me that talks about fraudulent and capricious and fabricated, which would all be illegal. And a threshold for a public official, the reason that somebody may feel entitled to do that is because really they just feel that they can get away with it. And I don't believe that they can. I don't. It's not open day on officials because we're public officials, much less staff. And when you present things that are knowingly false, and that doesn't have to be the person who is the presenting person, but things that are knowingly false with reckless disregard, whether it's false or not, you can't do that to a public official, period. You can't. So consistently, this is years of this, totally out of line, totally unwarranted. If there is an opinion or expression on how we're doing, we get it. It's free speech. Go ahead. But it's not okay for somebody to just absolutely, with malice, do what's being done. And I take it as no different. I take it as no different. It absolutely invalidates everything that you would try to do. It absolutely invalidates. And that's a shame, because there may be nuggets in there, but it just disregards every one of them. Thank you.
Mrs. Telfer, I know you to be an honorable person doing a good job for the city of Titusville, and I'll leave it at that. I think the rest of the council feels the same way. So I'm totally lost as to where we are now. Would you?
Okay, sir, what we'll do is, since these agenda items were pulled, I'll read each one of them individually for the record, and you can vote on them after the discussion is complete.
Okay.
Consent agenda item 8A, approve the budget amendment providing additional funds necessary for award in the amount of $8,697.60 and sole source the award to Ross Valve Manufacturing Company of Troy, New York for rehabilitation of 14-inch check valves in the amount of $48,697.60 and authorize the city manager to issue the instruments necessary for this contract.
Did we have discussion on this item? No, that's. So we're up to a vote on that item then?
Yes, sir.
I'll take a motion on the item, please.
I'd move to approve the budget amendment providing funds for the rehabilitation of the 4 check valves at the Morning Dove Water Treatment Facility.
Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, we'll do a roll call vote on all of these.
Member Nelson? Yes. Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel? Yes. Member Dees?
Yes. Passes unanimously. Next item.
It's item F, sir, and we believe we have a card on F.
Okay.
Yes.
Call the card, please, clerk.
It is Stan Johnston.
That's what I've been looking for. Mr. Johnston?
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsett Avenue. And we're talking about the St. Teresa Basin treatments, $272,000. My handout to you is something that I even emailed you that mayor and council members never responded to, March the 1st. None of that is, it has an email contained in August 21st, 2016, to future mayor and future council members that nobody here has responded to. That's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And we're talking about drainage. And this is and drainage improvements. We have St. Teresa's Basin treatments of $272,800. You've got to be kidding. You've got to be kidding. Is this some kind of a joke? When you're going to spend this kind of money on that and you won't even clean your ditches? Look at what I sent. Here's what I sent to all the mayor and councils and so forth. It says, why has the city refused to petition to clean the ditches and floodways for flood relief to St. Johns River? And you're going to spend $272,000 on something like what you've got here on this agenda item? And why does the city spend millions of dollars on stormwater in the past 40 years and not $1 on any improvements? I'm just reading from this. Removed even one home from the flood zone of the official flood zone map. Not one of them. So, but you're going to spend that's a lot of money. It's going to cost city $300,000 if you put administrative costs and so forth and like that. It's just what you're missing is when you spend money like this, you're missing the drowning hazards that needs to be corrected on the ditch, the flooding of private property, and the correction of erroneous and fraudulent flood zone elevations, which I have here, and I use the word fraudulent. And by golly, you know, that's a serious thing you all should look into. In other words, what happened just a few minutes ago is that I was explaining to you the word fraudulent in the floodplain, and what happened? Time was up, and you're not going to extend it. So I'm pointing to you guys. Do you have a conflict of interest? I'm talking about the mayor and all these wonderful council members. I think you're good. You wanted to serve the public. But we've got 6,000 acres of watershed with flood zones that are fraudulent, and you're doing nothing about it. I think it's serious. It's serious on your part. You're going to have to stand up to it. Maybe someday you'll be in court about this. So you wake up and see what's going, okay? So I'm calling this a conflict of interest, not quid pro quo, but you've got the public you need to address, not the city government. So on this thing, I am very much against it. And of course, it's so I think maybe you need to do your priorities and spend the money where it should be spent. All right? Any questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a vote on.
Let me introduce the item, sir. It's approve the Save Our Indian River Lagoon project cost share funding interlocal agreement between the city of Titusville and Brevard County in the amount of $272,800 in funding towards the construction of the St. Teresa Basin project. Additionally, approve the associated budget amendment and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement. And as I did send you a list of the Indian River Lagoon projects, and this is one of them with the Save the Lagoon project list that we're executing.
I just want to comment on that list. I think we are doing our part very well, and I had Laura Lee Thompson, I sent her a copy of that, and she said she's very proud that the city of Titusville has done as much as they have done, and I think we're way ahead of the curve as compared to other in this county, and I'm very proud of that. So, with that, I'll take a motion on the item.
I move to approve the Save Our Lagoon project cost share funding interlocal agreement.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed, like sign? It passes unanimously. I was going to do a roll call. That passed unanimously. Next item is, somebody give me a hint.
8G.
G? Okay. Cost share funding interlocal agreement, La Paloma Basin treatments. Are you?
No, we have a card, sir.
Oh, I'm trying to forget that. Thanks. Will you call the card?
Stan Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. I'm against this. How would I be against something that's stormwater treatment like this? $208,000. I don't need to go over that last reason. But there's something else here, is that what you've got La Paloma Basin treatment is a very small watershed. Very small. To spend that much money on just a small amount of acreage is, I can think, is absolutely ridiculous. Why would you do that? I don't think it's justified. There's such a little loading of nutrients from a small watershed like this. I mean, if you look at the map, I think you ought to look at it. We've got a ridge. The city of Titusville doesn't contribute anything like other cities like Melbourne, because we don't have big creeks or something that run through the ridge and stuff. We just don't have it. So this is, I would just think that this is not a sound investment in money to do that. Maybe we're required to meet some kind of EPA requirements, but this doesn't make sense to me. It's just too small of an area to spend that much money on for water treatment. It's a waste of money. It's not a good, you don't get your bang for your buck. Thank you.
All right, that's item J.
Yes, sir. That's actually item G, and I'll read the item for the record. Approve the Save the Indian River Lagoon project cost share funding interlocal agreement between the City of Titusville and Brevard County in the amount of $208,296 in funding towards the construction of La Paloma Basin Treatment Project. Additionally, approve the associated budget amendment and authorize the mayor to execute the project. And again, this is part of the BMAP required and funded by the 1/2 cent sales tax from the Save the Indian River Lagoon project.
Any discussion from council? Not hearing any, I'll accept the motion.
I'd move to approve the Save Our Lagoon project cost share funding interlocal agreement for the La Paloma Basin.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. We'll have a roll. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Next item is Solomir Grand. Item L. No, wait a minute. I caught myself on this one. It's item J. Item J, Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program.
So we have a card.
Surprise. Please call the card.
Stan Johnston?
Stan Johnston, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. I'm against this. Now, how can I be against education? For one thing, is the education seems to be really messed up. It seemed to be slanted the wrong way. And I just gave you an example with this La Paloma Basin. Now, we had before the council here some time ago, what we had is we had considered somebody from who was promoting this lagoon estuary cleaning, and certainly I'm certainly support of that. But here's what was said. It said is that the city of Titusville is being polluted also by Turkey Creek. The Turkey Creek, the sludge from Turkey Creek is coming up all the way here and polluting the rivers here in Titusville. I have a problem with that. I just really have a problem with that the detritus and the muck from here is polluting here. And so I just think the education here that we have in what education is nonsense. And just as I shared with you the last agenda item, the watershed is so small. Why do we spend so much money? We're not getting our bang for our bucks. The education on this does not include, as far as I know, is the pollutants. I'm talking about the pollutants we do, the things that are killing our honeybees and things like that. It's not in that program for the lagoon. In other words, the pesticides and herbicides, they're not even included in that. If they are, it's just a very minor part. But we're having killing. I came here in Florida in the 50s, and by golly, we had frogs, snakes, and all kinds of things around here. We don't have it like that anymore. We had all kinds of frogs in Scottsmore. I don't think you know about that. They're gone. They're gone. So it's just terrible. And the thing is, we're not looking at that, and this education we have is messed up. So thank you.
Yes, sir. This is an advisability to pursue a grant. The Indian River Lagoon Council, as an independent special district of Florida, has announced approximately $100,000 in grants available from the U.S. EPA Section 320 funds for projects to engage stakeholders in learning about water quality and habitat restoration. Multiple awards are anticipated. The city's proposal includes an education campaign to enhance the learning and understanding of Florida-friendly landscaping techniques and their impact on the Indian River Lagoon. The campaign will include postcards, mailings, a website, and workshops with the public. Staff recommends that you approve advisability to pursue this citizen engagement education grant.
Do we have any discussion from council on this item? If not, I'll accept the motion. From somebody?
I move to approve the advisability to pursue the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Project Citizen Engagement and Education Grant.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Barringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes. Next item is L, I believe.
Yes, sir. I believe we have a card on L.
Stan Johnston?
Yes, by all means.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. I want to share with you, first of all, the question is this been a private lift station? Can you answer that, Mr. Stauffer?
You have to address it to me, sir.
Okay, has this been a private lift station?
Ms. Pusaka?
Can you stop my time?
No, this is your time. You asked it.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
This is going to be the city's lift station. That's why they're giving us the property.
Has it been a private lift station?
It's a brand new for Solomir Grand.
Okay. All right.
It's brand new.
All right. Okay. Well, that explains something to me. Because generally lift stations are a bunch of lift stations. Solomir is what kind of a project then? It's a what?
It's an apartment complex on Knox McRae.
Okay. I can't. All right. Let me say this: I can't understand why can't a apartment complex pay for their own lift station and do it their own maintenance? Because generally, what we have is that lift stations has city, and city owns a lot of lift stations, but for private developments, and this is a private development for that, is that generally city governments do not take private lift stations. So they're making it a public lift station, and the city's paying for it. And I guess that's some kind of agreement that maybe it's the best for the city. But it seems like, in other words, what they're doing is they're pumping, like they're pumping their sewage into our gravity mains. But we're going to maintain their lift station for that particular apartment complex. I don't think that's right. So, and also this comes from Water Resources, which I believe I've raised the credibility issue of Mr. Stauffer. So I think it's quite possible that there's another big error here, like he's made some errors and misrepresented facts and hasn't been forthright and upright to City Council. So I'm against this as it is right now, as presented by Water Resources, and I question about whether it may be proper to do this as far as accepting it as a public lift station, but it's maybe that's what it should be done. But I question it. Thank you.
City Manager?
Yes, sir. Accept the warranty deed for the lift station at Solomir Grand Apartments.
Any questions or discussion by council? If not, I'll accept a motion.
I move to accept the warranty deed for the lift station at Solomir Grand Apartments.
I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Sir, before you take your vote, just as a reminder, in the exhibit itself, the acreage listed is .60. It's actually .06. and that will be corrected as part of a Scrivener's error.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Roll call vote?
Member Stokel, I know she's absent. Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson? Yes. Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Passes unanimously, Member Stokel being absent for the moment. Next item is M.
You're
We
on
have
M, sir, as in Mike?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
We have a card on this one?
Yes, it's Mr. Johnston.
Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. I know of a time when in the city of Titusville is that a contractor was hired to replace a 8-inch line with a 10-inch line, a large gravity sewer. He went in there, looked at it, and he said, well, my God, it's already a 10-inch sewer. So what did the city do? They paid him to replace the 10-inch sewer with a 10-inch sewer. That's what happened. You don't like to hear those things, stories like that, but this is what has happened before. So in this particular case is that it's coming from the same kind of agency, Water Resources, and it's a manhole replacement, and certainly the source of this is something that I believe has been, well, not believe, but he has been incredibly dishonest to me, and he's been misleading to council. And although you've said he's forthright and wonderful, is that I haven't been untruthful either. And as far as I'm concerned, he's incredibly dishonest and shouldn't be employed by the city of Titusville because of his misrepresentations to me repeatedly. And also I said is to FEMA. Information is never provided. Never done. Him and Mr. Rice. So you might want to somehow maybe think about if you have a conflict of interest on this issue, whether it's with Mr. Stauffer or Mr. Rice or anyone of his staff, I think you should announce it. So maybe there isn't. But in this case is that the information is from an unreliable source, and I think it could happen again, just like I told you about that sanitary sewer. Big sanitary sewer that was replaced and didn't need replacing. Do it anyways. So, as I said, I currently have a complaint against Mr. Stauffer. It's a serious complaint. It's going to also involve safety issues. And it's someday maybe it'll be processed by Human Resources. But it also mentions a number of certain members of the staff. But we have, for the most part, the city of Titusville has wonderful, honest staff. But we have some bad apples in the bunch. And he's one of them. So I'm looking forward to you thinking about it and responding to it, because right now there's like a code of silence here. You don't want to talk about it because just like those issues about flooding of private property, you don't call back. You don't call. Just like Parkland Estates subdivision, like Jolynn was talking about, she's going to help out on, she doesn't call back. That's what it is. That's what's going on here. A code of silence. Thank you.
And, sir, if I could address the complaint that's been filed against Mr. Stauffer, it's been investigated and found to be unsubstantiated, as we have done since 2012.
Thank you, sir. Read the item, please.
Yes, sir. Approve change order number 1 in the amount of $42,250 to contract Charlie November 18 Bravo 22 with Giorgio Construction Company of Titusville, Florida, to replace a manhole located at De Leon Avenue and Orange Street, and authorize the city manager to execute the change order.
Okay. Any discussion on this item from council? Questions? All right. I'll accept the motion.
I move to approve change order number 1 in the amount of $42,250 to contract CN1 8B22 with Gregory Construction to replace a manhole located at De Leon and Orange Street, and to authorize the city manager to execute the change order.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say yes. Oh, no. Roll call.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Okay, we go to, that's the last item, I believe. Go to ordinance, number 9, ordinance, second reading, public hearing, and related action.
Yes, sir. Item 9A, this ordinance has been withdrawn by staff and will be re-advertised for future consideration.
Item B.
Item B is ordinance number 17, 2018, relating to restaurants, caterers as a conditional use permit in planned industrial development zoning. Ordinance number 17, 2018, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances related to restaurants, caterers, by amending the conditional uses in the planned industrial development PID zoning district, specifically amending Section 2852 use table and Section 28-167 restaurants, caterers, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, and effective date, and incorporation into the code.
This is the second reading and the second public hearing. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered this ordinance on 21 February 2018 and recommended approval 4-1. The dissenting member stated that caterers and industrial in nature, that a CUP was not deemed necessary. On 24 October 2017, Council directed staff to develop an ordinance making catering a conditional use in the planned industrial development PID zoning classification, based upon a request by Planning and Zoning Commission. Pursuant to the proposed ordinance, restaurants which are accessory to the permitted use in PID would continue to be limited use. Caterers and takeout restaurants would be approved as a primary use after obtaining a conditional use permit.
Okay.
And Ms. Busaka is available to answer any questions that you may have on this second and final public hearing.
Ms. Busaka, any questions of Ms. Busaka from council? Do we have a card on this?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing. This is a second reading, right? Yes. Okay. We'll ask for a motion.
Move to approve ordinance number 17-2018 relating to restaurants, caterers as a conditional use permit in planned industrial development zoning.
Ask for a second, please. I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please, clerk.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Behringer?
Yes.
Member Stokel?
Yes.
Member Diesel?
Yes.
All right, here I go again. Let's see, that's our last item, I believe.
The next item is Section 10, ordinances first reading, which is ordinance number 18, 2018, related to shoreline protection ordinance. Ordinance number 18, 2018, an ordinance of the City of Titusville, Florida, amending the land development regulations by amending Chapter 29, Special Districts and Overlays, Article 2, Titusville Shoreline Area Overlay District, TSA, specifically amending Section 2925, minimum building setback from the mean high water line of the Indian River Lagoon, by amending and renaming Chapter 30, Development Standards, Article 2, Environmental, Division 4, Riparian Buffer to be named Shoreline Protection, and specifically amending Section 3061, Intent, Section 3062, Applicability, Section 3063, Buffer Setbacks, adding Section 3064, Establishing Standards and Minimum Criteria relating to alterations in the shoreline protection setbacks and surface water protection permits, adding Section 3065, establishing setbacks for on-site sewage treatment and disposal system, adding Section 3066, establishing nonconforming impervious area standards to allow existing structures and impervious areas in the shoreline protection setback, adding Section 3067, establishing Class 2 and Class 3 waters and surface water protection plan to regulate lot depth of principal structures within the shoreline protection setback, to require mangrove alterations in compliance with federal and state regulations, requiring a surface water protection plan, prohibiting dredging and filling connected to certain waters, prohibiting discharges that degrade existing water quality, adding Section 3068, establishing exemption standards, adding Section 3069 by clarifying the city's position, referencing density previously in Section 59948, density submerged lands, amending Division 5, bulkhead dredge and fill permits, specifically amending Section 3071, minimum building setback from the mean high water level of the Indian River, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinances, incorporation into the code, and an effective date.
This is the first reading. The public hearing is scheduled for your next meeting at 27 March 18 at your 6:30 meeting. Mr. Busacca is available to answer any questions that you may have on the first reading.
Any questions? I see none, Mr. Busacca. This is the first reading, does not require a vote, so we'll go on to old business.
We have one card.
Call the card.
Mr. Johnston? 10A.
Thank you. My name is Stan Johnson, 860 Poinsettia Avenue. And I have some special concerns about this shoreline protection ordinance. It reminds me of some other things that the city of Titusville has done, like, for example, administrative rezonings that people didn't get notice except by a newspaper and things like that, a number of things. Now, in this case, I know that you've had public hearings and so forth about it, but in this case is that I have two items on this report about the shoreline protection. The sections are shoreline stabilization and alterations, those particular two items. And in the shoreline stabilization, it talks about repair and replacement of bulkheads permitted if damages are in excess of 50%. So in other words, what we had a hurricane come here. People commercial, I'm talking about commercial, not residential, is they have their bulkheads torn to pieces. Okay, and they're probably not going to be able to get. They're probably going to have to. Now it says the new bulkheads are permitted, but they can't repair what they have. And new bulkheads are not. So in other words, what they're going to do is, if you go down, is that what you're going to have to do is they're going to have to lose a lot of property, because when you go to the different kind of shoreline protection required, it takes up a hunk of property, a big hunk of property, instead of a bulkhead. So you have a bulkhead. Now you have to slope it, real gradual slope, and put the filter fabric and sand and coquina rocks, and it's going to kill you. So they should be. This is not very much helpful, and maybe the people don't know and understand it now. It's going to kill them. It's going to kill these investments of perhaps maybe $1 million or something like that. And it's going, for example, the old Howard Johnson's right there, that property that had all those motels, it's going to kill it. And I bet the guy doesn't even know a thing about it. I bet he don't know anything about what's going on here. So, and there's other people who are going to kill him too. So it's not respective of or consideration, true consideration of some of these commercial property owners on the riverfront. Thank you.
If I could, I just want to assure everyone that all property owners along the Indian River Lagoon have been notified by personal letter of both the planning and zoning meeting and the public hearing.
And we also, as council recalls, had a workshop with the same public input and notifications to residents, both residential and commercial.
And we took into account everything they had to say, and I think most, if not all of it, is included in what we're doing now. So, now we're on old business. We have no old business, no new business, petitions and requests from the public present. Do I have anybody that wants to speak on the petitions and requests? I see no one. Mayor and council reports. You have my report, written report. Do we have a proclamation that was put in?
Yes, sir. You approved that during consent.
Okay. That
yes,
was
sir.
On there? Okay. City manager's report.
Any council members report?
Oh, oops. Anybody have anything they want to report? Yeah. Okay, go.
Thank you, sir. It's actually a question for council. Thank you for your patience. So a question I raised a couple years, it's probably been 2 years ago, in relation to decorum in the chambers, in addition to parameters that we have in procedure relative to mental health, was something that I raised a couple years ago. And I think at that time, not my intent was that it may have been taken as trying to take a dig on someone. And that is not the case. But I raised that question to this council again, although it's a different council, and here's why. Under Robert's Rules of Orders, the decorum in debate, you sum it up, it's not the man, but the measure. So it's the subject that you keep as the measurement of debate, not the person, not the motive. And that is how we go through issues in our procedures and our rules as adopted, and that's what we'll follow. Whereas for public in speaking, it's a much larger threshold. As I stated before, I am of the opinion that there are some things that you cannot do even under the guise of free speech, with the rationale of you can't scream fire in the middle of a theater, right? So there are some parameters, and I would hope that you would be supportive of at least potentially supporting city manager or city attorney of maybe outlining for us some of those parameters and whatever it would take to figure those out. I would hope that we might be supportive of that. And the reason for that, and where I have concern, is that in mental health in public forums or in the public as a whole, we have seen tragedy over tragedy over tragedy happen in recent years. And every time it seems like there's never a big surprise when it happens, when you look at the characteristics or actions of concerns. And so what I don't feel confident in at this point is that we can, to the city managers and the law enforcement officers that are here, they do everything that they can. But I think that there may be procedurally something at least to take a look at of how do we handle this, because I don't know if that this is something that's come up procedurally as something to be addressed. So
I appreciate what you're saying. Of course, we're talking about Constitution, free, that Amendment 1, free speech, and we can ask the city attorney to review it, but I don't think, at least in my experience, that you're going to find anything that will allow us to make the judgment that somebody is mentally ill. First of all, we're not experts at that. And this is only my opinion. And secondly, for the public to be allowed to speak, I think there's a lot of latitude given there. I'll turn it over to the city attorney if you want to research it. That's just maybe a brief description. I don't want you to spend time on something you probably already know.
I can certainly, if that's the direction of council, provide you a memorandum of some relevant cases out of the 5th DCA and others regarding disruption of meetings, public comment, what is considered appropriate. Because, of course, we are here to conduct city business. This is a limited public forum. This isn't, a public forum, say, on the sidewalk, somebody wanting to say what they want to say. When you come here, you are to do public business, city business. Comments should be limited to the city business. They should be relevant. You have every right to conduct your meeting free of disruptive behavior, free of irrelevant debate. And all comments should be relevant to the subject at hand. Bottom line. This is not a free-for-all. You're not going to have the public come up and sign up for an item and then speak off topic. You can certainly keep that comment to relevant debate and to city business. I'd be glad to provide you, like I said, some cases that have been decided in that regard, the city of Cocoa and some others, regarding your ability to control that, if that's your desire.
First, I'd like to say I appreciate what you're trying to do, It's not that I'm against it, I just think we're very limited in it. But yes, does everybody agree to let the city attorney take a look at it? You have our instructions. Anything else on that subject or from any other council members? If not, city manager?
Yes, sir. We have no action. I'm sorry?
Let Mr. Lewis go ahead.
Okay. I thought I saw you reaching for.
No, go ahead.
You've already started. I just wanted to put this out there. The Boys and Girls Club has made a commitment to come to Titusville to open up a facility.
Very good.
We are having a devil of a time finding a facility, of all things. We looked at the Gibson Center. The Gibson Center, there's one area that the county is using for storage. It is in really rough shape. They're using a lot of the Gibson Center for storage. We talked to Joe Robinson. He asked us to look at the Carter House. We'll be looking at that next week. The Carter House needs a lot of work. Ideal location. But if anybody has any suggestions, obviously we want to be in the target area or near the target area, so we take any and all suggestions at this point.
If I can make a suggestion, you may have already done it, but have you gone to a real estate agent? I imagine somebody would be able to find out what's available at least pretty quickly. They're in the real estate business, and I would imagine they would do that pro bono, or I would hope they would do that pro bono.
I think I know somebody who might. I hope she does. I'll hope she will.
I hope that helps.
But yeah, we are seriously looking for a place. If we could find even a place that, somebody would be willing to donate some space. We need about 3,000 square feet for a period of time to allow us to continue to search.
And they also may have buildings that wouldn't ultimately be usable for what you're saying, but they may get you through that period of time you're talking about if they're empty or something. So I think real estate, and you know them, so that's even better.
I know one or two.
Yeah. Sir?
Along the Boys and Girls Club, I would be remiss if I didn't say what I recently found out, and that is that Member Nelson just won and I don't know the name of the award, so you're going to have to humble yourself and tell us, but she just won a major award with her proactive ability or work with the Boys and Girls Club to extend them further. What's the name of the award? What? She won an award.
It says Advocate of the Year.
There you go. Advocate of the Year. And
I think it means I have a big mouth.
I think that means that you put your head down and you're getting it done, and congratulations to you on that.
I think that's terrific and well-deserved.
Thank you. I will say they surprised the heck out of me and had my daughter fly in from Washington.
Oh, no kidding.
For it.
That's great. That's great.
So, and they had Laura Lee come and talk.
That's
I couldn't
great
figure
also.
out what she was doing. I was like, you don't talk about kids.
Very good. It's the city manager. I think we're up to you.
Yes, sir. No action items for council. I have 3 information items for your consideration. First is the update on the bus shelter installation. Second is our HUD annual community assessment report. And third is the Brevard County Commission resolution that they passed on containers, plastic bags, et cetera, for your consideration. And last is we're proud to announce that the City of Titusville has awarded a grant of $1,060,000 to construct a new water main in support of the fire flow needs in the Southern Industrial District. And that we were the only one in Brevard County and one of 5 cities that was a recipient of the $22 million in awards that Governor Scott's awarded. So we're really proud of the staff for putting that together. It's a lot of hard work, and it's, again, forward-looking to try to get the industrial area on the south side of the city the water pressure that they need to expand. So we're really pleased with that.
Well, I can tell you we're very pleased about that too, and to the city manager and the city staff, our congratulations certainly, and I think they deserve a big round of applause. That's a lot of money, and I know it's going to the south part of town where that is needed for the new jobs and new companies that we have coming in that area. So that was a great take on. Okay, anything else, sir?
So that completes my report.
Anything else from anyone on council? See none, I will declare this meeting adjourned.